What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 86th episode of the Balanced Business Podcast. As always, got Larissa and Justine, and I feel like this is very interesting. Justine, you got a jacket on. Larissa, you don't have a jacket on. I got a shirt. So, we got a trifecta of styles going on today.
Yeah, it's currently how hot? It's currently a high of 109 today in Tempe. So, yeah, I'm probably gonna pass on any jackets.
Justine's over here like, I like my
Yeah,
jacket.
it's
So.
currently 89 where I am, so it's almost hoodie weather. I'm manifesting the hoodie weather.
Love it. Awesome. Justine, what are we talking about today?
Well, speaking of weather, as we start to transition into fall and winter, we thought it would be a good idea to talk about how landscapers can start transitioning their businesses and start thinking about how they're going to handle this change in weather if some of their services have to end because of the weather. So that is our topic today.
Absolutely. And it's really timely. I mean, it's interesting because you have to almost follow what's happening in like retail. So as soon as people start putting out like the holiday things, and you're like, oh, isn't that super early? Like right now it's September and beginning of September, and there's really like Christmas stuff out, right? So you're like, oh, that's super far away. When reality, it's not. Right. So a good thing to do is if you're starting to notice things in the store, that's a good trigger to say, okay, like what are my future plans? So right now, coming out of the summer lull, right, it's going to pick up a little bit. And then during fall, we have to start transitioning either our product lines or our marketing to compensate for this. So big thing is like you want to, there's almost no time too early to start preparing. Larissa, I know that you probably have more of a data-driven answer than I have, but my go-to is follow what your competition's doing and what's happening in the stores.
Yeah, to that point, I am much more data-driven. So I'm very much, get every last drop out of summer that you can. But as we transition into fall and winter, you're going to run into a lot of logistical problems. So, for example, if you live in maybe the northern United States, around October 1st, the ground is going to start getting too cold. The ground itself is going to freeze, meaning you're not going to be able to do work. Sometime in October for the very northern states, that's usually when that starts to happen. So what we really want to do is we want to prepare for that, and we don't want to be caught off guard when, even if projects are coming in, you can't fulfill that work in a lot of cases. So at that point, you need to shift your goals to something that you can fulfill. So yeah, it all comes down to the numbers and to the operational reality. Even if you're getting a ton of leads, but you can't service them because ground is frozen, those aren't super valuable leads to you right now. You can still call them and get them all booked in for spring, but realistically, if there's going to be a long period when you can't do your primary service because of the weather, I definitely like to just have something in my back pocket to be able to switch to for that period of time. That way, things keep happening, people keep getting paid, money is still getting made. Those are things that really matter,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, to that point, sometimes it's just about reframing what you do, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you have to add in a different service or offering. Most of the time you probably do, but doesn't necessarily mean so, right? You can add a different twist to your service. But let's say that you are a landscaper and you install artificial turf, and you do some hardscaping work on the side as well, and the ground freezes. To that point, you might want to focus more of your attention on the hardscaping, backyard fireplaces, things that are really geared to fall and winter, when people have a lot of parties outside. Hopefully it's not too snowy. Another thing is lights, outdoor lighting, both on the house and the backyard, as great add-ons. But let's say you do more of the mow and blow type of operation, right? Winter mulching, still aeration, start designing. A lot of people want a yard that's perfect in January, but January in the spring, but they forget that there's a lot of planning involved and designs and architects being brought in. So you want to make sure you start planning ahead of time, so that if you want your project done March 1st, that you start construction, in mid-January. So that's something to start thinking about. This is a really good time to plan for those bigger projects, as well as add in other services that might not be impacted so much by weather. Um,
Yeah, one thing I'll just add to that is definitely keep in mind safety of yourself and your crew. If the weather creates unsafe working conditions, don't plan on being able to fulfill those jobs, right? So if it's blizzarding outside, you need to be able to have some flexibility to tell people like, hey, we can't do this particular service because it's not a safe working condition. And that's another reason you just may want to have things in your back pocket, is solely just for the safety aspect. Maybe you're in a place like northern Arizona, for example, where it gets cold and they're going to get snowstorms, but the ground's not going to freeze. You are going to need to have things to fill in the gaps when services can and cannot be rendered. So just keep those things in mind as well, that even if, you can still typically continue doing your service, you're probably still going to have gaps with winter storms.
Absolutely. So let's get very tactical. What can you do right now? So let's say that it is we're entering the fall season. One thing that you can do is start getting as many projects in the books as possible, right? This is the time that you really want to start stacking up your jobs so that you get as much in, because there is going to be a lull over the holiday season, which is going to impact revenue to your company. So we want to start planning for that, start stacking up jobs. We want to reactivate people that might have not closed in the beginning of the year, springtime, or even during the summer lull. We want to reactivate those with very specific offers. My go-to one is put a time limit on that project, and that's why it's important to keep track of what someone wanted at a specific time. Let's say they wanted artificial turf done in February. It's not February anymore, but what you can do is, hey, we have a little bit of gap in our schedule. We're offering, we know that you wanted 500 square feet. We will charge you just for 450 square feet, still give you that extra 50 feet free, but you have to commit by X amount of date. Now, let's say that we're in the middle of winter, it's November, December, and things are just like kind of coming to a halt during the festivities. What you can start doing is start planning for next season. You have data. If you've been in, it's better if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. But if you have data, you can start looking at it and say, okay, it looks like my busiest months are February, March, April, and then after that it becomes, goes downhill from there up until the end of summer, right? How can we start planning for that? How can we start getting people in the books? Is there ways that we can invest in different marketing tactics? We love digital, but maybe going to the Chamber of Commerce to win a commercial job might be better for those lull times. So what you really, really, really want to do is not just take a break. Just don't take 2 months off unless you can afford it and you can build your business around that. But you want to start planning, because if you don't plan, you plan to fail. So biggest thing is you can't just throw your hands up in the air and say, I hope it gets better next season, because you can start planning for the inevitable changes.
Yeah, just, we like to say, don't let the seasons catch you off guard. They happen every year, right? So it's not anything that's new to anybody. We know that winter comes every single year. We want to make sure we plan around that. And again, it is going to vary definitely depending on where you're located. So if you're located in an area where you have a very mild winter, honestly, you might be able to just continue business as usual, and that might be okay. Again, I would still plan around storms and whatnot, even if you are in a place with milder winter, just to ensure that no matter what, you're good, you're taken care of, and that you won't have too much of an issue with your jobs. However, maybe you're on the East Coast, maybe someplace like Florida, well, you're coming into hurricane season, so those things need to be taken into account as well. It's not just cold weather. It can be, heavy rains, other types of storms that may happen, and different things that you need to plan around too. So keep in mind with those particular pieces that there may be other opportunities given to you because of them. So for example, if there's a big snowstorm and you need to fill up your calendar, well, one of the things you can fill your calendar with is snow removal. Snow removal, de-icing, things along those lines. There's a bunch of different services you can offer and utilize your current team. That way you all stay working through the winter.
Absolutely. Big thing is it just varies so much between seasonality, but biggest thing is try to get as many deals closed this year as possible. Start planning for next, and then hit the ground running. A lot of people won't start marketing and reaching out. While most people won't start reaching out and marketing until like the spring rush hits, you want to be doing this before that happens, which means as soon as the new year starts, you want to start marketing because not a lot of people are doing that, which means it's going to be cheaper for you and you're going to stand out more. So biggest thing is we want to hit the ground running as soon as the holiday season's over to start getting our pipeline filled and getting our crews busy.
The only thing I would add to that, and Nico, we can probably rapid fire here. A lot of people, they're gonna wonder like, what can I do? What can I fill up my calendar with? So we've listed some already. I'll go ahead and just repeat those. But Nico, if you have anything to add to this list, feel free to let me know. But again, the winter's a really great time to focus on your business, to focus on building website marketing, to get your calendar starting filled for the next season. And then to keep you and your crews working through the winter, here are some services that we know work, and that, whether our clients do it or we service these as well, these are all ways that you can shift for the winter. So I mentioned snow removal, we mentioned lighting, we mentioned hardscape, and the hardscape is going to vary a lot, right? So maybe it's building things like fireplaces or inserting pavers. Maybe it's concrete pouring, maybe it's epoxy, there's a bunch of different services you can offer that can help bridge that gap. Nico, do you have any additional services that are really good for the winter?
Yeah, I would also say anything to do with and again, this is more maintenance side, but like gutters or anything like that. You would be surprised like how many people actually are willing to do paid designs. Like if you really want to do like a $20,000 to $50,000 backyard remodel, now's a really good time where you could sell the actual design process of that, right? You use CAD or any programs where you can actually like show them what it's going to look like. Now it's really nice because you're not really hindered by the weather that much. You can go meet with the client over Zoom or in person. You can work at your computer to design everything up, and whether it's as long as you don't lose power, you can actually continue pumping out a lot of those designs. So right now you might want to move to maybe paid designs without securing an estimate, and then you can upsell people who you do that paid engagement for those bigger projects.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple other things maybe you want to consider adding to those lists that can be really high profit services: tree trimming, like Nico mentioned, gutter cleaning, anything really having to do, winter, people are really worried about their roofs. So if you can do any roof sealing, maintenance, anything that might prolong the life of a roof one more year can be a really good one, as well as any other like big foundational pieces. Maybe somebody would need someone to go underneath the house and just clear out the crawl space, make sure everything's good. Those are the types of things that if you are qualified to service them, winter is a good time to do those things.
Absolutely. Biggest thing is prepare, execute. So thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. Again, it's our job to make your life as easy as possible, get more jobs in, more profitability for your landscaping company. And if you find this valuable, email me at nico@getmountainmedia.com. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.